Welcome to the question of the day. Today's question is from Jeff in Georgia. And this one's a little different. Jeff shot over some hot takes from sales experts and he wanted my thoughts on them. And really, my email back to him was way too long, way too much typing. So I just decided to turn this into a question of the day. So, will I agree with the experts? Will I disagree with the experts? Let's find out. So the first thing I want to say, so Jeff had submitted this stuff over, and so I gave it a listen. It was in a podcast format, so I listened to it. And the first thing I want to say is I am not knocking these experts in any way. I would never bash on the competition. I would never bash on any other sales experts. I believe that what most sales experts are out there producing for business owners and salespeople works. It's like workouts at the gym, right? There's a lot of different workouts you can do, and they all work. They all accomplish different things, right? And some dovetail together better, and some conflict with other processes. So I just want to state I am not bashing on anybody else here. But there was one thing that caught my attention right out of the gate. Right out of the gate, very first thing they talked about was like making money. And I'm sure they're great. But this just kind of caught my attention because there's a lot of industry experts out there that are kind of blowhards, are really over the top. And they do it because it works in a sense of them getting your business. They're exciting, they're edgy. But usually, in my experience, usually they don't have much in the way of something that's scalable, repeatable, results driven. It's often not proven. It's often their way, like they did it their way. And like I said, there's a lot of different ways to do it, but I want the one that's scalable and repeatable. You know, Michael Jordan is Michael Jordan, but not everybody can be Michael Jordan, right? But I can make a lot of great A-level players if I focus on certain skills, right? So it caught my attention because right out of the gate, I don't know, that always turns me off is when you're over the top. I'm interested in the proven processes. I'm interested in what's scalable for my business. Often, I mean, frankly, that's boring. It's less exciting. It's like saying eat your vegetables. We all know you're supposed to eat your vegetables, and that's, yeah, you should do that. But that's just not very exciting. So again, I'm not saying these people are blowhards, but it just got me thinking of all those other sales experts, ninjas, masters, Vikings, ripped dudes in tank tops standing in front of their private jets. So I don't know. That kind of turned me off right away at the beginning. But it's a lot like scoring a touchdown, right? Like I like watching the guys that score a touchdown and then hand the ball to the referee. They act like they've been there before. They don't act like this is the first touchdown they've ever scored in their lives. So I don't know. I get it, but that was the first thing that stood out to me. All right, so let's dive into the content here. So the first hot take was 90% of salespeople offer best, better, good options. And they said that you need to stand out from the crowd. I absolutely agree. You should stand out from the crowd. Now, I think 4 options is the sweet spot. And I think those 4 options should be done one at a time. When I'm working with a customer, I never tell them how many options. I never want to commit to a certain number of options. I always say, we're going to look at a number of options. Okay. And those options are probably 4. I'm usually going to build 4 because 1 to 2 options is not enough. If I'm only presenting 1 to 2 options, really I'm putting my customers in a yes or no scenario, which is either going to equal a no or a shopping around. And they're going to feel like they're being sold to because I'm pushing those options. Customers today want to buy. They want to make a decision. They don't want to be sold to. So 1 to 2 is not enough. 5 plus is too many. It's too many options. It gets confusing. They don't do this every day. They get analysis paralysis. And we all know that a confused mind says no. So when we introduce too many options, like 5 or more, that tends to stall things as well. 4 is the sweet spot. When I ride along with salespeople in the field, 4 seems to be that sweet spot. I guess if you did 3, I'd still talk to you. It's better than 1 or 2 and better than 5 or more, but then you're just like everybody else. Everybody's got a good, better, best um, option. So I would say four options. I am going to say one thing. Now, they didn't really talk about this, but it got me thinking, and I'm going to say something controversial here. Handwritten. I think handwritten options produce the best results. And actually, I don't even think, I know, because I can see study after study after study, experience after experience after experience that proves it. And I know that seems old school, and I know that seems outdated today, but I can't argue with the results. I mean, and I like techie things. I like something that's polished and clean and techie, but when I'm presenting to customers in the field, handwritten gets the best results. A neat, customized for the customer presentation, it stands out to the customers and it makes more of an impact, which is what I want it to do. It's a lot like a business card. If you talk to a marketing expert, they'll tell you a physical business card is still the way to go because it makes an impression with the customer. Even if they throw it away right away, it makes an impression versus like a digital one you can get on your watch or your phone now. It's the same thing with a handwritten option. It makes an impression. It's tangible. They can hold it. They can look at it. You can write on it, right? Like it stands out. And especially in those studies, millennials, it really stands out because we're so used to technology and digital that a handwritten stands out. Did a study a while ago where we split a team up based on performance. So they were like equally performing. And we saw 7% difference, the digital presentation versus the handwritten presentation. So yeah, handwritten. I would go handwritten with your four options. So often I get pushback there where, well, I can't write nice. Well, suck it up, Buttercup. I don't know. I'm teaching my little kids to write nice. I think we can do it too. So okay, so the next hot take was they compared, they didn't really make a decision here, but they compared going top down on your options versus going bottom up. And they really like highlighted the pros and cons. So I guess the one thing I disagreed with there is I just don't agree with a bottom up approach at all, really. Um, there's just so many studies out there that show how the human mind is wired, and we're wired to react more when we're losing something than when we're gaining something. And you see this, people don't like being upsold. You don't like being upsold. And so that's that bottom up approach. So you're giving me a solution, but then you're trying to add all these other things. That just seems salesy. But if you're starting with a top down, you're taking things away, and that's where we have more of a reaction. And if you don't believe me, remember back to COVID when on the news they said there's a shortage of toilet paper. You're going to take my toilet paper away? Oh my God, I'm running to the store and I'm buying as much as I can now. My parents, they don't listen, so it's okay to say that. My parents have a whole room where like one wall is still covered in packages of toilet paper because they bought so much. I couldn't believe it. It's my old bedroom when I went back to visit. I hadn't been there in 8 years. So since before COVID, my room is now a treadmill and toilet paper. And it's because that threat of taking away, our minds are wired. When you take something away, it causes more of a reaction. That's why if you go to a car lots when on the show floor there, they have the top models on the show floor, the ones with all the features. They don't have the boring base models there, right? Because you sit in that, you feel that leather seat, you see that sunroof, you see all the features, the buttons, the gadgets, right? And then when you go test drive the base model that you came for, that one sucks. You don't want that one. You want the other one, and it creates a bigger sale because there's more of a reaction. They took things away from you. It creates emotion. And when there's emotion, there's action, and that action is usually sales. So I guess the part I disagree with there is I just don't agree with a bottom up approach at all. Top down, that's the way to go. Price transparency. So they said price transparency, you have to start early. Now, as they went into this, I sort of agreed. The only thing I disagreed was not too early. I definitely agree with early, just not too early. They made it seem like pretty much as soon as you're stepping out of the truck, you should be doing price transparency. I think that's too early because here's a few reasons why. If you do it right away, Well, why couldn't I have just given you that over the phone then? Like, if I haven't even seen your house or your setup here, like, well, why couldn't I just given that price over the phone? Why'd I have to waste all this time here? I haven't even looked at what you got going yet. So I think it creates that scenario if you're too early. Um, if you're a company I coach, you should be priced right, which means you're going to be priced high and profitable, right? And you haven't even had time to establish value yet, value in me, value in my solutions, value in the company. You're probably going to you have a risk of getting thrown out right away. So I'll throw a number out and it's 4 times the number they were expecting. If I haven't built any value yet, they're just going to throw me out right away. So uh, if a customer asks me too early, I'll address the question, but I still won't go into price transparency. I'll kick that can down the road a little bit. I'll say something like, well, we haven't even actually looked at your home or the system or discussed the solution yet. So I tell you what, let me take a look at that stuff and I promise I'll circle back. And if I don't, you hold me accountable to that. Does that sound fair? Every time customer says, yeah, fair enough. Because obviously you haven't even looked yet, right? Now, I do think it still should be early though, but it should be towards the end of your exploration, right? So you've been asking questions, you've looked at their setup, you've been building value the entire time. But I definitely want enough time before that presentation. I don't want to do it right before the presentation. I definitely want to give it some time, at least 10 minutes before I'm presenting. Because what happens is when they get that number, there's going to be waves of anxiety that come with that number, right? And your customer, they're like a pond, a calm pond. And when you give that top number, it's like you're throwing a brick in that pond. There's waves, but eventually those waves subside and the pond is calm again, right? That's what happens with anxiety. So if you've ever had a customer that had sticker shock, that was those waves of anxiety. So they saw the number and that anxiety floods their body and they just want to escape, right? Fight or flight. Some customers will fight you, but most flee. And they want to get out. That's when they say, no, got to think about it. Got to talk to my spouse or I got to shop around or I got to sleep on it, something like that. That's that anxiety, right? So if we did on price transparency, that anxiety would have happened, but then it would have subsided. Then we'd have presented the numbers, the same numbers I just used for the price transparency. But now we're looking at it with a calmer mind, and we're not going to have that fight or flight response. So I agree, price transparency early, just not too early, but definitely enough time before your presentation for those waves of anxiety to go away. All right, so then another hot take. They said, place your customer in price ranges. I disagreed with this. I didn't like how they laid that out. So I firmly believe your customers are having you out. They have a problem, you have a solution, right? They're taking time out of their day, time off of work, having a stranger come to their home. Your customers want to buy. They can buy. They will buy if I do my job. Let me say that again. They can buy, they will buy if I do my job. We have financing, and most people do qualify for financing. I know we get hung up on the customers that don't, but most customers can afford all of your options. That's not an issue, right? Don't make the decision for your customers. Don't pigeonhole them into a price range. Your job as a salesperson, honestly, it's not to sell, it's not to push any one solution. Your job is to be a purveyor of information. You're giving them a top option. That top option has all the things, everything. You owe that to your customers. You're also giving them a bottom option. That's your price leader, your cheapest solution. You owe it to your customers to give them that option too. And then you probably have 2 solutions in the middle that are customized to them. You should be giving that to your customers, every customer, every time. You owe it to them. If you're not giving them that top option, if you're not giving them that bottom option, and you're not building those customized in the middle, you're making the decision for your customers. You're shopping for them. And don't do that. They're all great options. They just need to decide which works for them. And I'm not going to be the one that tells them which one that is. So the next take is the best way to increase closing is at the beginning of the process. Yes, I absolutely 100% agree with that. I couldn't say it better. So I loved that take that they had. When I do my objection boot camps, very first thing I say in the objection boot camp is uh, you need to have a solid process, right? Because your process is what builds value and gets most of the sales. I say there is no silver bullets here, only golden BBs, because I've just done this too many times with the objection boot camp where a company will reach out and they say, I'm struggling with objections, and I'll go out there and I'll realize it's their process. They got a poor process. They're not building any value in them or the company or the solutions. And of course they're getting objections, but there's nothing I'm going to do. There's nothing I'm going to show you that's going to overcome a really poor process. You have to have a rock star process. Then when you attend the objection boot camp, that's what makes you great. Because if you have a good process, even if you don't know how to overcome objections, you're still going to do pretty good in sales. But flip that. Let's say you have a poor process. And even if you're really good at overcoming objections, you're still not going to do that good because you can't bridge that value gap of a poor process. But if you're good at both, you've got a rock star process and you know how to present and overcome objections, that's where you're lethal. Everything from the very beginning of the call builds to one point, that presentation. And so, yes, I completely agree with them that the best way to increase closing is at the beginning of the process. I would love to be all flashy, like I started out this conversation of like, I got the objection solution. I'll show you how to close every day. That's not the truth, though. It starts at the beginning. Yeah, the objections helps a lot, but it starts at the beginning. And again, boring like vegetables. So that's my hot takes reacting to other industry experts. That's the question of the day. If you're enjoying question of the day, follow, share, and give a rating. If you have a question, reach out to me either on social media or email. Both are going to be listed below in the show description. Let's get your question answered. Or if you're a Nexstar member, schedule a call with me and let's get this addressed one-on-one and get very specific to your situation. I'm Coach Chris. We will see you tomorrow.